G'day folks, welcome to the FifeLife, Australian Canary hobby. If you're new to the channel, I'm Mike, these are my Fifes, and this channel is dedicated to the Australian canary keeping hobby, really just showcasing at a fundamental level how to get started with canaries, and in my case Fifes, and just some of the other basic tips which you can see running through the previous journals. We're now up to journal number 9, my lucky number. Born on the 9th of December, wore the number 9 jersey when I played soccer back in the day, so this is going to be a special episode also because across the world, wherever you are, it's Easter time. So I just want to wish everyone a very happy Easter. To anyone that's travelling out on the roads, visiting friends or family, may you be safe. And if you're not travelling and you're kicking back and enjoying a nice cold drink, I hope you enjoy this latest journal. In today's journal, the main topic is going to be talking about show cages. But Mike, you don't show your birds, and true that is. However, show cages have many other useful applications in our bird rooms, and I'm going to be sharing some ways in which they can be used and some tips around the show cages, as well as just talking a little bit about the ins and outs of the show cages and some of the specifics. All right, so that's today's topic, and I hope you guys really enjoy it. And as I said, happy Easter, and just remember, maybe not too many Easter eggs, alright guys? Let's get started. Okay, before we get into the main topic, as we always do, we start with shout-outs. I want to give a couple of shout-outs. Firstly, to a gentleman by the name of Nick Dandrenos. Nick has reached out to me via the channel, and he's in the Brisbane area, and he's interested in getting into some Fifes. He's been enjoying the episodes. It's generated a little bit of a spark within him to look at getting some Fifes. So if you're in the Brisbane area, we have reached out already, and we're trying to get some contacts for Nick. But if you are in the Brisbane area and you have Fifes, feel free to contact me at the page, and I'll bridge and forward that information over to Nick. We also want to give a shout out to Graham Davis, who previously Graham's had a shout out on the page, but he let me know this morning that he's done a little bit of an upgrade and an update on his website, and that's Snooker Aces Fifes, and I'll put that down the bottom. Yeah, that's had a little bit of an update, so he just wanted to let me know, and there's some fantastic information on there. Also, to Ollie. Ollie reached 20,000 followers on his social media platform on Facebook, and I just wanted to say congratulations, mate. You really are a trailblazer with your social media, and you're really setting the limits very high for a lot of others to chase. I want to also give a big shout out to the OG, Matt Eld. Matt has put together a fantastic series, a 3-part series, of which the latest one I think I saw that it might have gone live now. It's a beginner's guide to breeding canaries, and I just can't tell you how much I appreciate that. I'm sure many people appreciate that across the hobby, but that's the sort of stuff that really helps the beginners and helps people getting started and generates some interest in getting into these beautiful little birds. So Matt, you know how much I love what you do, but I think we can all agree that the most recent stuff you're doing is really it's gone to another level. And you really are sitting at the top of the triangle, mate. So thank you so much for that. And if you haven't checked it out, guys, it's a beginner's guide to breeding canaries, and there's just so many great little tips there. I think I'm going to watch it probably a few more times before I get to the breeding season. So that's shout-outs for this episode. Let's now get into the other topic and the main topic. Before we do that, why don't we just have a little bit of a look at the different styles of show cages and the different types of canaries that go in them. Alright folks, as you could see, there's many different types of show cages, and the show cages are in a variety of sizes, shapes, colours. Some are with a backdrop on them, whilst others are an open or three-dimensional viewing cage. And as you can see over the left of my shoulder here, some of the canaries are moving in and out of the show cages, and that's part of the process that we use to acclimate them to the show cage. Now the show cage itself, or specifically for the birds I keep, and the Fife show cage, as I said, is a three-dimensional viewing cage. It's made of wire, timber base, has a top hat, cup drinker there, and lucky for me, given that I previously had boarders, both the boarders and the Fifes share the same cage. However, in the case of the Fifes, the perches are 5 bars apart. All right. Now, with the show cage, you know, if you're looking at exhibiting birds, and that's how most people would be familiar with these, presentation is a big part of that. So, if it comes down to 2 birds that are of equal quality and they're scored evenly, judges will start to look at where additional points or where one might have upmanship over the other, and that comes down to then looking at things like the show cage. All right. Now, for just a hobbyist like me, yeah, I like to keep my show cages nice and clean, and that way if I'm taking photos of the birds or I just want to get some birds out and have a look at them, you know, it's aesthetically nice, because I really do think the show cage it's quite an ornamental thing, and it really is a little work of art when you look at how they've been constructed and made. So take a little bit of pride in your show cages. Now, what I will say, and I want to say this from the point of view of perhaps someone that's you know, new to the hobby, or you're just canary curious, or maybe you're just scrolling through and one day you do stumble across a show bird being exhibited in the cage, do know that the birds don't live in these cages. I once put a photo up on my personal Facebook page, and one of my wife's friends who was not educated and really didn't know, so I took no offence to it, but she did say, "Oh geez, Mike, how could you ever keep an animal in such a small cage?" As you can see, the birds live in stock cages, or I've got the aviary outside, and these cages really are just used to exhibit birds, and also the other things that I'll be now talking about, which is some of the other purposes of the show cage. Now, it's a very useful tool, because what it does is it allows us to move our birds around. It allows us to have a very close look at our birds, and when done correctly, and when we train the birds correctly, we don't have to handle them. So I use show cages quite a lot for my cleaning processes. So I'll have the birds go into the cage. Cage sits over on the wall, which some of you have seen in previous videos where I've got my cages stored, and that way I can deep clean the cage, pressure clean it and what have you, and I don't have to then keep a whole heap of birds in one cage where previously they haven't been together, so there could be fighting or conflict and definitely increased stress levels. So I do use them for that purpose. Now, the other thing, if you are going to breed any type of canary, and when I say type, the variety of canaries such as the Fifes, you really do need to have show cages so that you can have a close look at your birds. Many people, I'm sure, will agree with me. How a bird looks in the stock cage is very different to how it may present itself in the show cage, and vice versa. Some birds look very good in the stock cage. Put them in a show cage, they start pulling and they look really not like the same bird. And some birds, you know, they don't look so good in the stock cage, but you put them in a show cage and they really get out there and show themselves and stand up nice and tall, and you can see the outline and the shape of the birds. So that's something to take into consideration, is that, you know, if you don't have show cages, it is hard to assess your birds for breeding, but being able to put also your pairs side by side and have a look at the qualities of each of those birds to get an idea or a reference of how their young will likely turn out. You know, so being able to evaluate your birds and being able to look at your birds. And as I said, with the Fife cage, it's a three-dimensional cage. So we look at the bird front on, we look at the bird from a side on, and front, sorry, we're looking at it, for me, that would be front on. Then we would look at the bird where it is front on, so this way, and then the three-dimensional view is looking down from the top and the shoulder on the bird, okay? So that's why it's made the way it is, so we can look at that, and that's how the birds are evaluated. Now, the other thing is, if you are needing to isolate birds and you know, with regards to medicating birds or anything like that, sometimes it can be easier just to run them into a show cage, and then from there they're much easier to handle, and then, you know, give you medications and so on. So there is a benefit to show cages and using them for that aspect as well. In the breeding season, if you don't have a divider, and previously I haven't had dividers in my cages, I have been able to successfully get the birds acclimated to each other and get them showing interest to each other via using the show cage. So you can use it that way, and you can just pop it on the front of the cage, and that works quite well, and then run the bird in, especially if you're running cocks over multiple hens. which I'm hoping to do this year and have done previously, there is a great benefit to being able to put the cage on the front of the stock cage, as you can see here. And we do that by using it's very hard for you to see, but we've got a very little metal hook there. Now the metal hook holds the door open, so do be careful your birds don't, they can be slippery little suckers, don't let them fly out, but then that just allows for the cage and the door to be open and then suspended on the front, which is what you can see is happening behind me with those cages. Alright, so there's that we can do with the show cages as well. And really the other thing is being able, for me, I like to get the birds out and just enjoy the birds from an aesthetic point of view. So I've got a shelf outside that I do like to put the birds out there. It means that they get some natural vitamin D and sunlight, which is good for the birds. And I try and do that pretty much, every week, every fortnight. I try and rotate and just get some birds out. I like the birds to be comfortable in the show cages because I do think that allows us, then if we do need to, for any reason, get them into a show cage, that they're well and truly adjusted to it. It doesn't stress them out. It minimises handling our birds. And that's some of the great benefits of having these in your bird room. So whilst I don't show my birds currently, I definitely make sure all of my birds are show cage trained. How I do that is that I will start with something to entice the birds in, and usually just something like I've got behind you there. You can see the birds just pecking at a little bit of leafy green, and that'll encourage and entice the bird to go into the cage. Once they're very comfortable doing that, and you can get them in quite easily, in the case of running cockbirds in during the breeding season, I just use a very small piece of dowel and just a little bit of spatial pressure in behind them, and they'll usually hop straight through into the show cage. At that point then you just sort of lift it up and the door falls down, and we've now got a secure bird in the show cage. So there you go. That's something to consider if you haven't got show cages, and if you're just starting out, can I just say, where do you get them? Well, our Canary clubs are the best place to start. Now for me, I actually just got some second-hand ones. They were being used as training cages by someone in the hobby, and I just dressed them up with a little bit of fresh paint. They were like $10 each, which I really think is a bit of a bargain. So that's probably a good way if you're in a situation like me, where you're just a hobbyist and you're wanting to have some show cages in your room. Get in contact with your local club or become a member of the Australian Fife Club of New South Wales, which is going gangbusters. Grab yourself a couple of cages. I have 10 in total, and I find that's more than enough considering the quantity of birds that I keep. Very useful, very helpful, and I'm sure there's people in the hobby that have a few spare ones lying around and are happy to help you out. Alright folks, well that's today's topic and the main part of it. So let's get into the other parts of the episode, which is our other segments. Alright, it's the chit chat and chirps section of the episode, and that's where I just chat about little bits and pieces and whatever pops into my mind. But while I'm doing that, I'm just going to give the birds a little fresh feed. I've got some choice sum, one of their absolute favourites here, and a little bit of egg food for them as well that I made up fresh this morning. So both fresh. I went to the farmers markets this morning and got some of this beautiful choice sum. It's just lovely. It's so fresh, and I know they're just going to absolutely love that. Now while I do that, I was having a little think during the week, and I mentioned at the start of the episode I'm really loving what Matt put together with that the beginner's guide to breeding canaries. I just think there's a lot of stuff out there, and I think some of it's probably at times it's a little bit aimed more towards the expert exhibitor, and I really like the stuff for the beginners because I just feel like there's always something new you can learn, and I always say the basics done brilliantly, and strong foundations in anything are important. So I'm really enjoying that, and the third part of the series is out from what I can see, so I'll be watching that later today. So I'll finish doing everything that I'm doing. But I was just curious, going right back, and this is back to the original Canary room. And this is about 7 years ago, and Matt could probably correct me if I'm wrong, but 7 years ago, you had to subscribe to it, and it was a website. Now the first two, definitely the first two, but potentially the first 3 seasons, you paid a little monthly subscription. And look, it wasn't very much. I think it's got to be less than $20 a month. Not even, I don't think. I'd have to go back and have a look. But I subscribed to that for all the years prior to it going onto YouTube. And now Matt uploads everything onto the YouTube channel. We all have access to it for free. And one thing that I thought, and I take a little bit of pride in this, is once Matt transferred it over to the YouTube platform, I kept up the donations. I kept up a subscription, and I've donated to every single episode. And it did make me think how many people donate, and how many people just flick a few bucks Matt's way and say thank you for everything that he's doing, because he truly is, he's doing fantastic stuff for the hobby. The production, the quality, it leaves hobbyists, novice people like me for dead. But to show a little bit of appreciation, I just want to put it out there, and he'll probably be shaking his head when he hears me say this. Oh, geez, Mike. But honestly, guys, I think if you just slipped him a few bucks, and on behalf of the FifeLife channel and all of us, if you follow me, I'd love for you to do this. I'm just wondering if you could just donate a few bucks, and maybe the FifeLife can pay for his next tank of fuel when he goes on the road again. I don't know, maybe helps cover some of the costs of his breeding season, or maybe even helps him take his lovely wife Claire out for dinner, and they can go and enjoy a nice night out together, and that's on the FifeLife. So please, if you can, I'd really love that. I know Matt would really appreciate it. He doesn't ask for anything in return, just does it because he loves it. But I can tell you, putting these little videos together, it's time consuming, and there's a little bit of effort involved. You have to prepare your room. You're inviting people into your bird's room, so it can't look a shambles. And it holds me accountable. I kind of enjoy it. But I will say that there is that element to it. So maybe we can all just pitch in and throw a few bucks his way. I'm sure he'd really, really appreciate it. All right. Now the other thing while I'm doing this, and I just want to say that the new birds, they've settled in beautifully. So the new birds that I got from Andrew have been here nearly 3 weeks now. Just giving them a couple over here, a nice little bit of fresh greens. But they've all settled in beautifully. They had a little bit of adjustment in getting into my routines, and the change in seed mix and a few other little things that we take into consideration. But they've really settled in, and they're looking really good. And it's actually quite a few of the male birds were singing this morning when I woke up, which is beautiful. I love that. So it's still quite hot up here, but it's getting better. And Easter's really the turning point for us, I think. All across Australia, we love this time of year where it just starts to just get a little bit cooler. Our summers can be a bit brutal over here. It can be quite hot. So I'm going to give them some of this egg food, and they'll be spoiled for choice today. All the yummies. And that's what we do. We go a little bit above and beyond for our birds. They appreciate it. And I think they're looking really good. I keep saying it in previous episodes that shed feels like it's got a lot of vigour in it at the moment. The birds that I got originally from Peter Southgate, they weren't bred from last year, so I think that's going to add to a lot of benefit for their productivity here in the shed this year. But they're just bouncing, and that's a really good place to be in coming out of the summer, where it can knock the birds around a bit. In previous years they've sort of struggled with the summer up here. I know I struggle with it. I'm not built for the tropics, but I do my best. But definitely my fair complexion and my skin, I tend to hide in the shade a fair bit on the aircon. But we've made it through, guys. We've made it through, and the birds are looking really good. So that's fantastic. And outside of that, I think it's good to see everyone overseas. Looks like they're having this, particularly in the UK, and I've seen a few little videos from some of the people that I connect with. Kieran, over there in Ireland. Looks like he's off to a good start with his breeding season. It's all starting to happen. Mick Tiffany, he looks like he's had a good start over there in Tweet Street with his lizard canaries. He's doing well, which is fantastic. And to anyone else out there, I hope you guys are having a really good start. I did see that Shane Evans, the Bird Room, has a much awaited latest episode, which is fantastic. It's been a little while coming, and he's launched a Facebook page as well, so the Bird Room's now got its very own Facebook page. I believe his son's running that, so that's very, very cool. Good on him for getting him involved in that. And as I just do the last one, we're almost done. We're almost ready to wrap it up for another episode, journal number 9. Alright, egg food's done. Okay.
Oh, good morning guys, it's Mick from Tweed Street, just doing a quick rundown for Mike from the FifeLife. Hi Mike, hi everybody else watching, and you have a great weekend. First bird is the diva. She's just made a nest at last, and all the rest are just sitting on their eggs. These are all lizard canaries, a bonded pair. The new bonded pair, they're just getting together, haven't quite laid yet, but they're pretty much the only ones that haven't. A 2022 bird, she's doing really well, she sticks like glue. My youngest bird, she's sitting on some eggs as well. Cockbirds just done their job, they're just chilling out. And if you watched my video last couple of weeks ago, that's the pair there that decided to make a nest in the end. She was putting in material in, he was taking it out. Well, have a great weekend. Hope everything goes well for you guys in your bird room. It's Easter, get yourself eggs, chocolate, canaries. See you later.
Alright folks, as we come to an end and the birds have a lovely feast in behind me, do remember, here on YouTube, if you're watching on this platform, like, subscribe and share. I really appreciate as much as we can get the hobby out there, so thank you for those that are doing that. Also, if you haven't checked out our Facebook page, head on over to the FifeLife, Australian Canary Hobby. I love that everyone's sending me messages over there and updates on their breeding seasons, so to be a part of that, head over onto Facebook and see what we're up to over there. And once again, a very happy Easter to everyone, and safe travels on the road. And now to finish off, I just want to leave you with just a couple of minutes of some birds outside on my show bench, where I put my birds out there, and I'll let you guys have a little look at how that's set up, and some birds in the show cages. Once again, guys, thank you, and remember, a happy Fife, happy life. Cheers.